Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 80. I'm Enigmus, and today we're back to work on the Manta. We've got a couple of things that we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at a little bit on this front section, just a strip of 2 blocks wide, just to the left of the channel there. We're going to kind of rework that, because it's the way we've got some of those blocks in there is messing with the flow, and it was a bit distracting for me, so I decided that before we get too much farther ahead, and because I had some ideas already in my mind of things that I might like to do to correct that I would just go ahead and do that. We would get that taken care of, and then the rest of the episode is going to be focused on the side of the vessel in front of the air intake vents between the upper and lower hulls. That's going to be one area where we haven't done anything at all yet, but it's kind of an important transition between the upper and lower hulls, especially the lower hull, because when we set up that profile, we set it up as a big sort of elliptical curve, and if we don't get it right, it's going to look a little bit wonky, and we'd like to avoid the wonky looks just because we can. So we'll probably end up spending a little bit of time on that, and then there's not really a whole lot left that we have to do. We'll have the front sort of grill section, so to speak, and we'll have the finishing of the air intake vents. Now, not reworking, we've already done enough of that, but actually finishing the front end of them. I specifically left that incomplete because I wanted to see how the rest of the ship came together, and I wanted to make sure that the ideas that I had for finishing the intake vents would fit with those other designs. So that's the last 2 things after this episode that we'll have to work on, but for now, it's just getting this transition right. We have this bottom row of blocks that we have to carry around. And the thing with these bottom rows of blocks is for me, there's always sort of the urge to do some sort of a transition in the last row of blocks, just because it's sort of the last hurrah, the last chance to make something look as interesting as possible. What I would have preferred to do is bring this last row of blocks straight down, so it would be vertical, and it would be sort of completing the curve. All of these different angles coming down off the top of the ship would end in this straight drop for 1 row of blocks all the way around, and it didn't quite work out that way. I tried, I definitely tried, but it was one of those things where there's just that one area where it's not going to let you do what you want to do because of the way everything is laid out, and if you try and force it, you're going to end up either having to redo a huge section of the ship, or it's going to look awful. So just for the sake of time, I decided that I would do it the easier way. You can see here, this is going to be probably the best example I can offer of what happened. So this is what I was talking about bringing them down. You can see I've got this 45-degree block, and I'm looking at it and thinking, that's where I would like to put it. But then how do I make it work with that 45-degree block right there? And there was no good answer to that question, so that's why I decided to go back and replace the 45-degree blocks, do the 22.5-degree blocks off this long sort of angular section coming forward, and then as sort of one last little bit of defiance, we'll be able to put a couple of 45-degree blocks vertically on the back, just so that we can say that we did. You can see coming in here, the 45-degree block, and vertical. There, we did it. I know, it's such a trivial detail. Who cares, right? So now this section here, this is the side that I was talking about, that we're going to be finishing off today, just sort of filling it in, making the transition from the top to the bottom. I didn't want anything especially detailed or complicated because there's so much going on immediately to the front of and immediately behind this section of the ship. We have the air intake. When it's done, is going to have some detailing going on there, and then we're going to have the grill section in the front of the ship that's going to have all kinds of detailing as well. I don't want this side section so busy that it distracts from either of those other 2 areas, because what ends up happening is it's not so much that it distracts and you end up looking at this side section instead of, it's that everything distracts, and it's a very chaotic thing to look at, and I don't really want that sort of I don't even know what I'm tempted to say I don't want that sort of mood, if you get what I'm saying. I don't want that sort of theme with this particular design. I want to be able to rest my eyes on the parts that were specifically made interesting, instead of having my eyes pulled everywhere because I had too many things going on And in this case, I mean, what you see now is basically 90% of that transition. It's 90% of that side wall, but we went and made the lower hull curved around the front with the profile. It's kind of a big elliptical curve, and now we want to try and make that transition work with the wall that we just put in place on the side of the ship. And it's not going to be a smooth, seamless transition. I already know that. There's too many angles coming into play, and they're too far apart to make that happen. But that's not to say that we can't spend a little bit of time here, experiment a little bit, see what blocks are available to us, what shapes come out of those blocks when we put them together, and eventually come up with something that we'll be happy with before we move on to the final sections of the ship. So really, at this point, I could keep nattering your ear off, explaining to you the same things that I've been explaining about every other section of the ship that we've done. We're just working the transitions to get this side done. I'll let you watch that. Like I say, the next episode, we're going to be working on areas that we have not yet touched before. I'm not sure what we're going to do first, the intake front section completion or the grill of the ship, the front section. Either way, it's going to be something new, and we're getting very, very close to a completed ship. So if you want to be notified about the next episode, the easiest way to do that is to subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information box below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of this episode. I'm just going to let you listen to some music. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.